In 334 BC, a young man stood at the head of an army poised to change the world forever. His name was Alexander, son of King Philip II of Macedon, and by the time he was 20 years old, he had already become one of the greatest military leaders in history. With a burning ambition, relentless strategy, and remarkable charisma, Alexander the Great would go on to conquer much of the known world in a single, rapid campaign that spanned continents, laying the foundation for one of the most influential empires in history. But how did a young man, fresh from the shadow of his father's power, manage to achieve such a monumental feat? To understand his success, we must first look at the forces that shaped him, the extraordinary circumstances of his rise, and the brilliance that made him an unmatched conqueror. Alexander's story begins in the ancient kingdom of Macedon, a small but powerful state in the northern part of Greece. The son of King Philip II, Alexander was born in 356 BC in the city of Pella. From the beginning, his life was surrounded by the promise of greatness. Philip II had already transformed Macedon into a military power, conquering much of the Greek peninsula and securing his rule with an army that was both disciplined and innovative. Yet it was Alexander who was destined to take his father's dream even further. At just 13 years old, Alexander was already demonstrating signs of brilliance. His father, Philip, entrusted him with the governance of Macedon in his absence, a remarkable gesture of trust in someone so young. During his short time in charge, Alexander famously quashed a rebellion and founded a city, Alexandropolis, naming it after himself. His military acumen was already apparent, but it was his education that truly set him apart. His tutor, none other than the philosopher Aristotle, provided Alexander with a deep understanding of philosophy, literature, and science. Under Aristotle's guidance, the young prince developed a love for Greek culture, learning the works of Homer, who would later inspire him on his campaigns. It was not just military tactics that Alexander excelled in, but a holistic understanding of the world around him, an understanding that would inform his leadership and shape his legacy. In 336 BC, when Alexander was just 20 years old, his father was assassinated, thrusting him into the role of king. The transition of power was not smooth. Philip had made enemies both within his court and across the Greek world, and many saw Alexander's ascension as a potential weakness. But Alexander wasted no time in proving his worth. In the same year, he quelled a rebellion in Greece and dealt with potential threats to his throne with swift decisiveness. His first challenge as king came from Thebes, which had rebelled against Macedonian rule. Without hesitation, Alexander led his army to Thebes and laid waste to the city, sending a clear message to anyone who dared challenge him. His victory was swift and brutal, but it demonstrated the efficiency and might of his leadership. Within months, the young king had proven that his reign would not be one of mere inheritance, but one of power and ambition. But it was Alexander's next move that would change the world. In 334 BC, he turned his attention to the Persian Empire, the largest and most powerful empire in the known world. Under the leadership of Darius III, Persia had ruled for centuries, stretching across modern-day Iran, Iraq, and much of Asia Minor. Alexander, eager to prove himself as more than just his father's successor, crossed into Asia Minor with an army of about 35,000 soldiers and began his campaign against the mighty Persians. The Persian Empire had been in decline for decades, but it still commanded vast resources and an impressive military. Yet Alexander was undeterred. His first major victory came at the Battle of the Granicus River in 334 BC, where he decisively defeated the Persian forces despite being outnumbered. It was a victory that marked the beginning of his unstoppable march through the Persian Empire. Alexander's strategy was unique. He adapted to the terrain, used unconventional tactics, and never allowed himself to be confined to traditional methods of warfare. At the Battle of Issus in 333 BC, Alexander faced Darius III himself. Though Darius commanded an army that was roughly 3 times the size of Alexander's, the Macedonian king's tactical genius and the loyalty of his men led to a crushing victory. Darius, in desperation, fled the battlefield, leaving his army in disarray. This victory solidified Alexander's reputation as a military genius and cemented his place as a leader destined for greatness. He had not only defeated the Persian army, but he had humiliated his king in front of his own soldiers. As Alexander continued his advance, he took the key city of Tyre after a 7-month siege, and then moved on to conquer Egypt in 332 BC, where he was hailed as a liberator. It was in Egypt that he famously founded the city of Alexandria, which would become a major cultural and intellectual center in the ancient world. But Alexander's conquest wasn't just about military victories, it was also about the spread of Greek culture. He envisioned a world united under the banner of Hellenism, where Greek ideas, philosophy, and culture would dominate the lands he conquered. He encouraged marriages between his men and local women, adopted Persian customs, and even proclaimed himself a divine figure in some regions. By 331 BC, Alexander had reached the heart of the Persian Empire. The final confrontation came at the Battle of Gaugamela, where Alexander faced Darius for a third and final time. This battle would prove to be the turning point in the war. Despite facing overwhelming odds, Alexander's tactical genius and the loyalty of his men led to a crushing victory. Darius, once again, fled the battlefield, leaving his empire vulnerable to Alexander's forces. The Persian Empire, which had stood for centuries, was effectively dismantled, and Alexander was now the undisputed ruler of the vast lands stretching from Greece to the Indus River. But Alexander's conquest didn't end there. He pressed further east into India, where he encountered the mighty forces of King Porus at the Battle of the Hydaspes River in 326 BC. Though his troops were exhausted and his resources stretched thin, Alexander's determination pushed him forward. The victory was hard-earned, but it was yet another testament to Alexander's resolve and leadership. However, after this victory, his men, weary from years of constant campaigning, finally refused to march further into India. Reluctantly, Alexander turned back, marking the easternmost point of his empire. By the time he returned to Babylon, Alexander had conquered more land than any ruler before him. His empire stretched from Greece to Egypt, Persia, and India, covering much of the known world. His achievements were nothing short of extraordinary for a man of his age. Yet, despite his unprecedented success, Alexander's life was tragically short. In 323 BC, at the age of just 32, he fell ill and died in the palace of Nebuchadnezzar II in Babylon. His death remains shrouded in mystery, with theories ranging from natural causes to poisoning. Despite his untimely death, Alexander's legacy endured. His empire, though short-lived, became the foundation for the Hellenistic world, a fusion of Greek and Eastern cultures that would influence the world for centuries. His conquests spread Greek culture and ideas throughout the regions he conquered, and his military strategies are still studied in military academies today. The cities he founded, particularly Alexandria, became centers of learning and culture, and the ideas of Greek philosophy, art, and science continued to flourish long after his death. In the end, Alexander the Great was not just a conqueror, he was a visionary. He sought to create a world that was united by culture, knowledge, and progress. And though his empire crumbled shortly after his death, the impact of his life and achievements would resonate throughout history. Alexander the Great did not just conquer the world, he changed it forever.